welcome to yet another Tuesday Top Tips. Thank you for being with me today. And I think this is an exciting one. I'm going to give you the 5 things that loan officers wish credit professionals knew. 5 things. 5, that's it. Easy 5 things. But I'm going to give you the most important one last, just because I want you to stay with me today. Okay? So let's think about this today as I'm putting together this Tuesday Top Tip. You know, I've heard a lot of credit professionals come to me talking about how they paid for coaching and the thousands of dollars they paid, and it didn't really help them, and it just gave them more information. And it was almost like give you enough to not help you at all kind of information. And as I was thinking about that, I know that I do it a different way. And these Tuesday Top Tips, if you're really listening and paying attention and staying engaged with these Tuesday Top Tips, I'm actually giving you the key to $1 million credit professional industry. I'm doing that for you right here. You don't have to go anywhere else. You don't have to pay anybody. I'm giving it to you for free. I was thinking about that. On every Tuesday Top Tip, I give you an insider view of how you can improve your business, grow and scale. You don't have to pay someone thousands of dollars. So stay with us at Tuesday Top Tips. And of course, if you're a Level Up Score partner, you get in our private page, which allows me to also do some free coaching with you on how to grow and scale your business, including doing disputes and all of the other things that are a part of our business. So I just want to share that with you because it was on my heart and mind today. But let's dive into the reason for this Tuesday Top Tip. And it's the 5 things every loan officer wishes credit professionals knew. And if you know these, think about the referrals that you might now get from loan professionals. So let's dive into it. Again, thank you for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint slide, the 5 things loan officers wish you knew. Please know these. These are important. So one thing I want to tell you is that today we're going to talk about something that may completely change how loan officers view you and how many referrals you actually get from loan officers. So if you really listen to these top 5 things, I think you're going to get more than you expect out of this Tuesday Top Tip. But keep in mind, the most important one is the last one that I'll go over today. So for over 20 years, I've lived in both worlds. I've lived as a credit professional, helping consumers improve their credit and financial profiles for their future goals. And I've also been hand in hand as a lender and loan officer for those 20 years. So I really do step into both of those roles. And so when I talk about the 5 things that every loan officer wishes you knew, I'm talking as a loan officer to you today. So take heed. It's almost like interviewing a loan officer today. And you guys get to do that every day with me in Level Up Score's partner page to dive in of what loan officers and lenders are looking for. But I'm going to give you the 5 things we wish you knew, because I think this will be very helpful for your business. But one thing that's very clear, that's very different when I'm working in both of these professions, okay? So number 1, loan officers don't get paid for effort. Credit professionals do. Think about that for a second. Loan officers don't get paid for effort, but credit professionals do. They don't get paid for good intentions, but credit professionals do. They get paid only when a loan closes. Now I want you to think about that for a second. As you're trying to get more and more clients, you are getting paid for your effort, as you should. There's nothing wrong with that. You're also getting paid for your good intentions, AKA you're trying to get something negative off the credit report and it ain't coming off. And there's nothing wrong with that. But loan officers don't get paid for effort, and they don't get paid for good intentions. They absolutely only get paid when a loan closes. I'm going to stop and pause there for a second because I want you to really think about that. They work hard all month long for several clients to try to get them to the closing table. And it doesn't always work. But they don't get paid for any of that work that they did. Any of it. Unless that loan closes. Same thing with a real estate agent, right? So credit professionals, we actually have it easy. We get paid before we show the results of what we did, right? Before they get the loan that they came to you to help them get, you're getting paid. You're getting paid for your effort. You're getting paid for your time. You're getting paid for your good intentions. So because of that, it changes the way loan officers think. They think different than credit professionals. They think about what they need to spend their time on to make sure that loan closes. We don't always think about that when we're thinking about credit. We're looking at the thing we can get off their credit report. But are we diving into what the client actually wants from us? It's not the credit score. I can promise you that. If they can get what they wanted with the low credit score, they would get what they wanted with the low credit score. They're coming to you because they couldn't get what they wanted. So many credit professionals spend most of their time looking at credit reports. Loan officers spend most of their time looking at complete loan packages, loan files, loan profiles. Big difference. Okay. So I want to dive into that today because I want you guys to be looked at as trusted referral partners to your loan officers. And if we're going to be that, we have to understand what matters to them. What matters to them is they refer someone to you and they get to the closing table. Right? So we're going to dive into the 5 things that they wish you knew that would help them. And I can promise you, if you help a loan officer close a loan and get it to the closing table, you won't have to worry about referrals anymore. And the one thing really cool about loan officers is we share. If you are a credit professional and you are a borrower readiness partner and you're able to turn those loans over to us and I get more loans to the closing table, I will tell every loan officer I know about you because we share. And so I want to give that gift to you today by diving into these 5 things that loan professionals wish you knew and go from there. Okay. So what's interesting is that most credit professionals believe loan officers care primarily about credit scores. Now, those of you who follow me, you know I talk about this all the time. We don't freaking care about the credit score. If a client comes to me as a credit professional and says, I want a 700 credit score, I say, why? And they say, I want to buy a house. And I say, okay, why do you think you need a 700 credit score? And the answer that I always get from those people is, I thought that's what I had to have to get a loan. And if I said, what if I were to tell you that you don't need a 700 credit score and I could get you into a home loan? Would you want to get into a home loan? And of course, the answer is always yes. So the score doesn't matter. The only reason that loan officers ever say score is because the score gets you in the door. What that means is we do have guidelines that say you have to have a certain score for us to even look at your credit profile. AKA maybe it's a FHA loan at a 580. Okay. Now, the other reason that score might be important is it does factor into the interest rate that a consumer would get on their loan. So the higher the credit score, the better the interest rate. But that's not a factor necessarily in them getting approved other than if they have a debt to income ratio problem. So I just want to clarify that because score is important, but it's not the whole story. And it certainly is not the most important part of our job other than it opens the door. Okay. Again, credit scores matter. But loan officers care more about approvals. That's what I want to get in your head. Think about every time you look at a credit profile, if you're working with a loan officer, what do they need to make sure this person can get approved? That's what they care about. They care about qualified borrowers. They care about predictable outcomes. They care about communication. That's super big. Okay. We're going to go over these 5 things in more depth. They care about getting clients to the closing table. That's the most important thing. Okay. The professionals who understand the difference, but these differences become valuable referral partners for loan officers. And I can promise you, if you can do this, because I've done it. I had the full service first time home buyer specialist. I did it. I didn't have to worry about referrals. I didn't have to worry about chasing clients. They just came to me because the value that I gave them was so huge. They got to the closing table. Both the consumer's goal was to get to the closing table, and the referral source, the loan officer or the real estate agent, their goal was to get to the closing table. And I was able to do that. If you can do that too, I promise you won't have to worry about money. What is it? Zig Ziglar said, you help 1 million people, you make $1 million. Keyword help. Help 1 million people, make $1 million. Think about that. So let's dive into them. I'm going to give you number 5. They need progress, not promise. What does that mean? They need progress, not promise. Let's think about this. Now I like to say this goes for not just the loan officer, but the consumer. The consumer doesn't need a promise of a 700 score. They need progress towards their goal, right? So loan officers, they want to see progress towards the client's goal of getting to the closing table, right? So if we can show them a personalized action plan that specifically lays out the things they need to do, not just a generic action plan, guys. There's a lot of those out there. You can hand make that daggone thing. What I mean is a professional action plan that tells the consumer what they need to do to get qualified, not to have the best credit score, Maybe that's part of it, but to get qualified, which is the main goal, right? Monthly change reports. What changed? How are they progressing? Clear next steps and progress tracking. And you guys know that Level Up Score does deliver all those things on steroids. So we have added a bunch of new features to make that job even easier, listening to our loan officer partners. And we're going to dive in that on Wednesday. So those of you who are able to, Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, I'll give you a QR code at the end so you can get signed up for that class. I'm going to show you everything. These 5 things that I'm going to tell you today, I'm going to show you how Level Up Score automates that for you. I'm going to show you on Wednesday. I'm going to tell you today, show you on Wednesday. Fair? Okay. So they need progress, not promises. Very important. Okay. So if you promise someone that they're going to get a home loan, but you never get them there, that's not going to make a real good referral partner, right? So progress, not promises. Okay. Number 4, they need strategy, not generic advice. Now, I just kind of already stated this to you, right? It's pretty obvious. But like in Level Up Score, for instance, we have different loan officers. You have, loan officers that work for auto lenders and business funding. You have home purchases. The goal is important because the strategy will be different based on the goal. And so as you guys know that are using Level Up Score knows that, and it knows how to build that strategy out for those specific goals that, we're not making generic advice, right? So let's think about this. One borrower wants to buy a house in the next 6 months. One wants an auto loan. One wants business funding. Should they all receive the exact same information? Should they all receive the exact same plan? Of course not. This plan is not going to take them here. This plan is not necessarily going to take them here, right? So they need plans that are specific and not generic, okay? So everyone doesn't get the same advice. They shouldn't. Everyone doesn't get the same process. They shouldn't. Everyone doesn't get the same checklist. They shouldn't. Loan officers think this way. This is what we want to see. We want to see not generic advice, but advice that helps the client get to their goal. So as a loan officer, we have an engine. We call it the automated underwriting engine. And we can take the profile, that's the credit report, including the application that we took. We throw it through this automated underwriting system. And it tells us, guess what it tells us, guys? What the client needs to do to get approved. It's not stressing to us what's wrong. It's telling us what needs to happen to get approved. What are the issues, the obstacles, what needs to happen to get them approved? That's what our automated underwriting system does. And that's what Level Up Score does. We already know the problem. They're already with us, right? We need the solution. And loan officers are expecting that you can come up with this solution that's needed for that approval. So every recommendation should answer one question. Does this move the borrower closer to their goal? Does it move the borrower closer to the closing table? Everybody has a different strategy. A mortgage loan officer has one strategy. An auto lender has another strategy. A business funder has another strategy. So it's really important that we have different strategies for each of those users. Different goals require different plans. This is, I guess, the moral of the story. Okay. So remember that. They need strategy, not generic advice. Generic advice doesn't get the client where they need to go. Remember the whole goal, right from the beginning we talked about, is a loan officer trying to get someone to the closing table because that's the only time they get paid. So they don't want generic advice to their consumer. They don't want this is negative, let's delete this. They don't want that. It's not what they're looking for. We're going to dive into that on Wednesday. So if you join me on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to show you these 5 things, how it's already automated in Level Up Score so you can deliver this to a loan officer. This is what they want. So let's look at the next thing here. We're talking about Level Up Score. We're talking about the goals. Obviously, most of you who are using Level Up Score know that we have specific goals that deliver specific action plans with specific resources that are needed, right? And so that's already done for you. Again, we'll dive deeper in that on Wednesday, those of you who can attend. Okay, they need predictability. Number 3, they need predictability. So what does that mean? Loan officers hate surprises. Your real estate agents, they hate surprises. We all hate negative surprises, right? I mean, let's be fair. But when a loan officer believes that a client is ready and then they pull the credit report and go through the process and they're not ready, that's not a great surprise. It's not a great surprise for a loan officer, certainly not for the real estate agent as well. Remember, the whole goal is to get the person to the closing table. The loan officers, quite frankly, remember they work and they don't get paid unless it goes to the closing table. So if they refer business to you and it comes back to them and it's still not qualifiable, you made them work again for free. You wouldn't do it, but they do it all the time. So you have to be really careful about how you do things. So the action plan, they should get an action plan. Every month should have a change report, right? The loan officer should know what's going on and should have confidence in the ability for that person to be approved before they go and do that loan application again. This is very important. Now I want you to think about this again. Put this in your head. A loan officer does not get paid for effort. So if they refer to you, number one, we need to make that referral effortlessly. We've done that. If you follow me in Level Up Score, I'll show you how to do that. They need that effortlessly because they don't want to even refer. Trust me, it's too much work. But if they refer, it needs to be effortless. It needs to be effortless in their ability to communicate with you. We're going to talk about that here in a second. It needs to be effortless in their ability to trust that you are giving the solutions to get the person qualified for that loan and go to the closing table. And they don't want to have to worry about updates. They certainly don't want to have to email you and say, hey, this client just reached out to me. What's going on? Don't do that to a loan officer. You won't get any more business. Remember, they don't get paid for effort. So if you don't get paid for effort, what is the thing that you don't want to do if you don't have to? Effort. Work. So how do we take that load off of them and help fill up their pipeline? That's the goal. So how do we do that? And how do we automate that for both you and them and the consumer? Because it works better if it's automated for everybody. No questions asked, automated. Everybody knows what's happening, right? Knows what's changed. The DAR knows what's to work on next. The loan officer understands. Everybody's on the same page. And that consistency builds confidence for both the borrower and the loan officer in you. Okay? So let's look at number 2. They need communication without creating more work. Keyword, they don't want more work, guys. They don't get paid for effort. So they need communication without. What does that mean? You might know. They want to know that things are happening. They want to know that the client is getting communicated with, that it's automating this relationship so they don't have to worry about it. You too. Automating everything you can. That repetitive work you shouldn't be doing. You should automate it, absolutely, so that you can keep building relationships, because you can't automate relationships, but you can automate the work behind your relationship, right? But when you automate it, then everybody is in clear communication of what's happening, because it's always happening at the same time, right? It's automated. If I'm going to give you an update every 30 days, you're going to get an update every 30 days. Not every 35, not every 40, not every 45, not ever or never. Not just when the loan officer emails you because the client is like, this person's not working and helping me. Have you heard that? Has a client lied about you? What if everything's automated and transparent? Can the consumer lie about you anymore? No. So it's a beautiful thing for you as well, but it's important for the loan officer. They don't want more work. They don't want to refer business to you and then have the client emailing and calling them saying, hey, what's going on with my credit? I can't get a hold of my credit counselor. I can't do this. I can't do that. I haven't seen my score move. Oh boy, don't do that to a loan officer. They start getting those and they will not work with you ever again. They don't get paid for effort. And that just sounds like a lot more work for them. And that's one of the reasons a lot of loan officers don't refer business to credit professionals, is because they see it as more work for them. And they don't see the next thing that we're going to talk about, a client actually coming back to them. I hear it all the time. I hear them all the time tell me, if I send my deal to a client, to a credit professional, then I have to babysit this thing. I get messages from the client all the time. The client gets mad and then I look bad. And you know what's the biggest thing? I don't ever get a loan back. Man, that sucks. That shouldn't be what they're saying, guys. But they are, and they're saying it loud and proud. They're saying it loud and proud. And if they hear another loan officer sending business to a credit repair specialist, they'll be like, oh, dude, don't do that. That's stupid. You're going to have this. You're going to have this. I'm in those rooms, guys, all the time. Remember, I sit in both chairs. I'm in the rooms. I hear it. Great place for me to be to help teach you, right? I hear it. So think about that. But if you could communicate with them and they trusted you and everything's transparent, and they're not getting all this flack from the client, that it's all done by you and you're handling that situation, and they can clearly see that, man, they're gonna definitely want to work with you. Okay. So I'm gonna say this again, and I might say it a couple more times before the end of this live. Loan officers do not get paid for effort. They get paid when a loan closes. So how do you take that off of them if you're asking them to refer their debt? Because what they could do, guys, I mean, let's be fair. They got a client comes in, can't get approved. They could just say, sorry, can't get approved. And they move on, which they should do, to the next client that they can get approved. Because that's how they make money. They shouldn't be sitting back trying to figure out how to get this one approved when they should be focusing all their time in getting another person that they can approve. That's why you're so important. Because if they had you, they get to have their cake and eat it too. That's why you're so important if you do it right. They shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be doing your job, but you should be doing your job in such a way that they don't have to worry about doing your job. Or worst case, loan officers just not referring at all and saying, you're denied. Sorry, can't help you. Sorry, I'll give you this little action plan, because they have ability to get an action plan, guys. You're not the only ones. They're suck, but they have the ability to do it. And here's your action plan. Go do this and come back to me. That's what they like to do. How can you step in on that? You have to take the work off of them. That's how you step in on that. You have to show them that the referral is worth sending to them, right? So, that's exactly why I built Level Up Score, because we can track everything. We can automate everything. We got progress reports. Everybody's on the same page, right? Okay. Those of you who stayed with me, here's the number one thing loan officers wish you knew. This is the number one thing. Listen up. Very, very important. And this is the shift that's changing our entire industry. I've been saying it for years. Everyone else is just starting to listen. I'm going to blow this up because I want you to see this. Number one, they need borrowers who are truly ready. That's what they need. Why do they need that? They don't get paid for effort. They get paid for closing a loan. So they don't want you to send them back someone who's not ready. Oh, you got the credit score up. Oh, great. It opened the door. Now I got work to do. I talked to a loan officer just a couple days ago, and he said, what the worst thing is? We give them an action plan. They go and do the things, but they do other things that we didn't expect, and they come back and they still can't qualify, and then we have to give them a new action plan. How can we alleviate that problem? How can we give them back a consumer that is truly ready? We have to understand what it means to be a borrower readiness partner. We have to understand what it means to work with the loan officer and get the person qualified. And again, Level Up Score does that for you. So all you have to do is be able to read that plan, right? And I have a special thing I want to share with you guys on Wednesday, because I just upped the ante on that whole process as well. You literally, if you are a credit professional listening today and you're like, I am just getting started, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing, you better be on the call on Wednesday, because I can share with you now, all you should be is a social media influencer, because I will do the whole job for you through Level Up Score. You're going to see that tomorrow if you're on at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, so make sure you're there. Again, I'll give you the QR code. So let's dive into the number one thing. They need borrowers who are truly ready. What does that mean? Okay. What does that mean? This is where I believe our industry has been stuck for years. We always thought if they have a good credit score, they can get the loan. And it's not been true for a long time. It was true before 2008. The fall of the mortgage industry in 2008 changed everything, but we're still stuck. And I was just talking to someone the other day. Get your calculator out. Let's put this in perspective here. So we are towards the end. We're in the second half of 2026. 2026 minus 2008, the fall of the mortgage industry, 8 years ago, we stopped focusing on credit scores. And you still are? The credit industry still is. We're talking about getting negative things off the credit report to improve the credit score. 18 years ago, loan officers said we don't freaking care. 18 years ago. Can I say this a few more times? 18 years ago. So again, credit score gets us in the door, but then we're looking at the whole profile. We're looking at 24 months of trended data. Now the credit reports are starting to catch up with what we've been doing for the last 18 years, right? So think about that for a second. If that's true, then getting negative things off the credit report isn't necessarily the thing. Getting the credit score up as high as you can, not necessarily a thing. Who cares if you're in the 800 club if you can't get what you want? I mean, let's be fair. So borrower readiness is asking a bigger question. Does this borrower understand what the lender needs? Are they following a strategy that's going to help them get that home loan? Have they address the obstacles that actually matter? You know, maybe that charge off doesn't actually matter. I teach that all the time. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe that late payment back in 2023 doesn't actually matter. But there are things that do matter. Are we looking at those things? Are they building habits that prepare them for long-term success? All of those things. That's the role of a borrower readiness partner. That's what I'm challenging you guys to be. And, you know, it's not easy. Someone the other day, another software company I was on a call with, he mentioned, you know what? The action plans, we want those because it's going to make the credit professional's job easier, and it's going to make the borrower's job easier to get approved. And I said, no, not true. It's going to make it better. I didn't say this was easier, guys. It's not. Easier is getting a negative thing off the credit report. And if you don't know how, I'll teach you how. It's easy. Easy is getting a negative thing off the credit report. Better is getting them qualified for the home loan that they want, or the car they want, or the great credit opportunities that they want, or the debt freedom that they want. That's better, not necessarily easier. But we built that technology into Level Up Score to give them a clear plan of what's important to get them to their goal, right? And so think about that for a second. This is the number one thing that loan officers wish you knew. They wish you knew this. It costs them money every time you send them back a client that they can't process. Not just in like literally money, but also in time, which is money because they don't get paid for that time. They don't get paid for their effort. They get paid for closing a loan. So what I want to leave you with on this number one thing is loan officers don't need repaired credit. They need qualified borrowers. And that's what they're asking for from you. If you want to be a borrower readiness partner, if you want their referrals, that's what they're asking you for. They say they do not need credit repair. They need qualified borrowers. So the future isn't credit repair. The future is borrower readiness, and that's what I want to teach you. That's what Level Up Score will help you do at scale. So imagine walking into a loan officer's office today, do it today, and saying, I'm not here to sell credit repair. I'm here to help every one of your clients that is not yet ready become ready so that you can get them to the closing table. Every client receives a personalized action plan. And if you meet me tomorrow, I'll show you how you can deliver one to them right in that moment as you're talking to them. Monthly progress updates, true monthly progress updates, a strategic plan to get them to their goal, and clear next steps every single month without creating more work for you or for either of us. Now we're speaking the loan officer's language. You're not selling disputes. Please don't say disputes. And please don't say the word credit repair. You're selling a business solution for both you and them. You're solving a business problem for both you and them. So thank you for being here for Tuesday's Top Tips. Let me just end with this. We do have that live presentation on Wednesday at 5 p.m. I'm going to show you how you can be a borrower readiness partner, automated, at scale. And I have a really special thing that I want to share with you. So even if you are already a user of Level Up Score, you want to be on this call because I have some special things that we're releasing now in Level Up Score that is going to change the game. So be there. That's a QR code to get there. You can also comment demo below and we'll make sure you get that link. And then finally, if I have provided value to you on this live, please let me know by giving me a Google review. I love 5-star reviews. They're my favorite. Anything below a 5-star review, comment below, not 5 stars. We'll reach out to you to find out how we can deliver a 5-star level service to you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here at Tuesday Top Tips. And I hope this one gave you something to think about today. And just remembering, loan officers don't get paid for effort. They get paid for closing a loan. How can you help them? And they will help you. I'll see you next time.